Let's take a look at how we get started using Labaki's free template to make our own immersive media tours. We're going to be looking at the Unity version because I think Unity is a little easier for newcomers to navigate. We should have already downloaded Unity Hub from the link in the instructions. We'll have to create a login. We can just select a personal account for now since we're only building this stuff for use within our own organizations. So let's unzip the Unity template project. I like to keep all my stuff in a Unity folder. In here, we've got a place for projects and for what we're going to build out of those projects. So let's extract our template 360 to the projects folder. Then inside Unity Hub, over here on the left, we select the projects tab, where we'll see anything we've previously opened. We don't have anything yet, so we can click Import Project here, or go to the Add button and select Add Project from Disk. We click on our Template 360 folder, and if we've already installed this version of the Unity engine, it'll let us open it up. The nice thing is, if we don't have this version of the engine installed yet, it will suggest we install it. We want to make sure we have the Android editions checked. The headsets use the Android operating system, so that's the platform we're going to end up building for. The Microsoft Visual Studio is for actually writing scripts. If you've got some programming or computer science students that end up wanting to customize things, you'll need that. So we totally read all this terms of service mumbo jumbo before we agree to it. Install the Unity editor and open up the project. And here we are, in front of the Beau Rivage in sunny Biloxi. Okay, so last things first. Let's make sure we can actually build this project to load onto our headset. We go up to File and down to Build Profile. A lot of things use Android, so that could mean a phone or a tablet. But here we have this MetaQuest option. So if the option is grayed out, we can go down to this Add Build Profile button here and click it, then select MetaQuest and choose Add Build Profile. Since it's selectable in this top list, we can click on it and select Switch Platform. This is basically telling the entire project, okay, we're making stuff for a MetaQuest headset now and nothing else. It goes through its process until now we see MetaQuest set to active, and that build button is selectable now. So let's go ahead and click that build button and tell it to save this in our Unity builds folder and wait for it to work its magic. And 190 million years later it says build successful. So we know we can make something that works on our headset. If you're going to run into a problem, there's a good chance it comes at the build stage, which is why I like to test that out first. But on the bottom of every one of our instruction slides, you'll see the support@labaki.com email. That's there for precisely this issue. Whatever error pops up, you'll see it in this console tab. So you can just copy, paste that into an email, shoot it over to us, and we'll try to get you pointed in the right direction to solve it. All right, let's make our own 360 tour then. First, we'll prepare our footage. I've got some 360 we shot inside My City Rides up in Memphis. It's full resolution, maximum bit rate, so these are big files. So first thing we're going to do is compress them so this one app doesn't take up too much space on the headset. So we'll use Handbrake for this. This is a free program that we include a link to in the instructions. We're going to click this folder button on the top left to grab all 4 of our videos at once. So we're going to select this preset and go down to Android 1080p 30. Again, all these steps are included in the instruction slide, so you don't have to memorize any of this, but we select Align AV Start, we go to Dimensions and set this resolution to 4K. Now this is the biggest driver of image quality, is the size of the image here. Compressing the bit rate doesn't damage the quality as much as lowering this resolution. And basically, once you downgrade your resolution, it's really hard to get that quality back. So we'll pop over to the Video tab, and we want to select Constant Frame Rate and set our encoder preset option to the maximum placebo level. Up here on our quality settings, we're going to kick this up to 15. This is really the amount the image is being compressed, so the smaller this number, the bigger the file size. I really don't see much of a difference in image quality from 15 to 0, but anything above 15 starts to degrade quickly. So this appears to be the sweet spot where we get the smallest file size with the most acceptable image quality. And that's basically it. Since we modified this Android 1080p preset, let's go ahead and save it so we literally never have to do that process again. For all future videos, we can just load our new VR setup preset and be good to go with one click. We're going to go through each of these videos, go down here to browse and select where we want to save our newly compressed videos, then add it to the queue. Once we've got all 4 queued up, we click start and let the compression begin. A lot of development is knowing when to take a break and go freshen up your coffee. Whenever you're doing something like this that's really going to eat your computer's resources, it's best just to walk away and let the machine do its work. I don't like even going over to my web browser when stuff this big is compiling or when I'm rendering out a video. If you've got emails you need to catch up on, I'd advise doing that on your phone while your computer sweats this out. I really don't care how powerful your machine is. If you want to crash it, go open more apps and press a bunch of additional commands while stuff like this is going on. But that's just my opinion. Don't say I didn't warn you. Speaking of warnings, I'm going to go ahead and show you what things look like in 360 when you use the free version of Canva. So the way our 360 tours are set up is they use an image as a placeholder until you hit play on the video. So best practice is to export the first frame of your video as a still image. To do that with Canva, we just bring in our uploaded video, scroll over to the start of the video, and click on share up here in the right corner. Instead of exporting an MP4, we're going to select JPEG or PNG so we get a single image of whatever frame we're currently set to. After I've made still frames for all my compressed videos, we go back into our Unity project. Let's make a new folder down here under videos, name that My City Rides, and just drag all of that stuff into the editor and wait patiently for it to process. Now we have to get our Pano viewer to use our new content. We click on our tablet. Over here in the top left in the hierarchy window, we need to drill down to the actual Pano viewer prefab and select it to expose our options over here in the inspector on the right. So to start, we've still got our default settings. So first thing I want to do is scroll down to the bottom and hit reset. And our programmer Henry wanted to make sure you didn't do this accidentally. So you have to prove you really want to and actually have to click that button 3 times. Now we're working with a blank canvas. Let's set our starting point at square 56. So we go down to 56 and open up the details. Drag our still image into the sky matte slot and the 360 movie into the video clip. And we want this to be our starting point, so we select is origin. Then we'll fill out some details. Label is just for your internal use, then the title text is what appears at the top of the tablet, and description is what shows up on the right of the tablet screen there. From there, we want to go backwards or down into the clothing area of the store. We go here to slot 46 and add in our second sky matte and video clip, add our label, title, details. Next, we want to go to the right of our start point. So we'll set our third clip into slot 57 and continue on from there into slot 58. And as is always good practice, anytime you've completed a few steps, go and hit File, Save, or Control S on your keyboard. Always expect your computer to crash on the next button press. Now, since we've set up our My City Rides tour destinations, we'll scroll down to the bottom of our panel screen prefab and click on Update Map so we can see our changes have taken effect. And since I have my headset connected with MetaLink, I can put it on and click play and test it out in VR. So you see what I'm saying about the free version of Canva. This still image is super chunky and low res. And when we hit play on the video, we can see a world of difference in quality. Much nicer, even though this is a highly compressed video, still looks nice and clear. So yeah, if you're going to use Canva, best spring for the subscription so you can export your video and images in 4K. Now we can walk around the My City Rides location and check out these videos. So you might notice that the direction the arrows are pointing aren't quite lining up with our environment. But we have a quick, easy fix for that. The Rotate Sky slider here lets you change which way you're facing in each section. So we can just adjust this until we get our orientation lined up with our arrows on the ground. I'll actually demonstrate that more in this next section. So let's say we want to take our students on a field trip somewhere, but instead of dealing with transportation, budgets, and permission slips, we're just going to make it a virtual tour instead. There's this super simple, convenient little tool called Street View Download 360. And of course, we've included the link to this in the instruction slides. This program is pretty straightforward. We'll just go to Google Maps, and look at that, it already knows where I am. So we'll drag in our little Street View guy here. There's our office. All we have to do is copy the URL. Then back in the Street View download app, we'll click the folder icon to set where we want our panorama to save. And let's give this a more descriptive name. Then we'll paste in our URL and download our panorama. Beautiful. This north rotation value here can help us with our rotate sky slider later on. So we'll go ahead and make a little note of that value. Then let's grab a few more of these and we'll do a quick walk around the building in our app. All right, we've got all we need. So let's go back into Unity and reset our Pano screen. Let's go into our Panoramas folder over here in the project window, and we'll create a new folder for our Labaki HQ images. Then just drag those into the project. Let's set this up where we start around the corner and make our way to the Labaki entrance. So let's start at 56 again. Here we'll use that rotate sky value to get us facing the right direction. Then we'll head over to President Street on slot 57, then around the corner towards slot 47, and finally past the parking lot in slot 37. These all have a rotation of about 170, and let's update the map. Run it in the headset, and here we are on Silas Brown, rounding the corner onto President Street, and heading past Labaki HQ. But we want our virtual field trip to be educational, so I'm going to bring in some audio clips I recorded. We've got a handy audio clips folder already. I'm going to go in there, create a new folder for my Labaki tour voiceovers, and drag those files into my project. Then I can add them to the audio clip section of each of my panel screen slots. Let's not just assume our students are paying attention though. Let's give them a little knowledge test. On any of these Pano slots, we can expand this questions section and put together a little quiz. The first field here is how many seconds into this presentation do we want the quiz to pop up. Whether it's an audio clip like this one or a video, the tour will pause and it won't continue until they get the answer right. I can see this audio file has a nice pause right here at 6 seconds, so that's where I'll set the quiz to take place. If I had a long clip, I could add multiple questions and just set them to fire off at different times. Now that I have my time set, I just type in the question, add some potential answers, and set which one is the correct one. Let's do another question on the next clip. This one I want to start with the quiz, so I'll just set the time to 0. What's the question? Add a few bogus answers. 1 truth and 3 lies. Now when we go through our tour, we've got a play button for our audio clips.
Heading north on President Street, we'll find where Labaki moved to in August of 2019. The single-story unit at the back of the parking lot is the Labaki headquarters.
And here we have a quiz pop up, and pause the playback until we answer correctly.
This is where the Immersive Institute is assembled.
And this last section doesn't play until after I complete the quiz.
Next door down President Street are the offices of JPS.
Okay, I'm not sure if you noticed, but in the audio I said we were turning north on President Street, which is factually correct, but I set up our map to take us south. Whoops. So now I have to do all of that all over again. Or do I? Of course not. Say I'm building out a tour, but I end up adding another stop in between 2 that are already there. Or I want to add a whole other branch to a tour I already built, but I'm running into the edge of the map. So I just need to rearrange what I've already got, and I don't want to have to redo all that dragging and dropping and typing and whatnot. Well, that's what copy-paste is for. So let's get out of here real quick. Right, the exit button doesn't actually do anything when you're in the editor. It will work once we build the app though. So back inside our panel screen prefab, we want this southbound path actually going north from the west side of our starting point. So we simply need to right click and copy the data from 57 and right click to paste it over here on the 55 slot. Problem is it's going to overwrite a couple fields with the 57 data that we don't want. We want to revert which square we're talking to, so we can just right click and revert that. And the item ID needs to match this square, so we right click and revert that as well. Now we can revert this entire 57 slot to clear it out and update the map. So now we're headed in the right direction. All right, now we need to move 47 over to 65. Well, same thing, right click to copy, then right click to paste, revert the square and item ID fields, then update the map. Whoops, we forgot to revert slot 47 first. This actually wouldn't cause an issue if we left it like this in the app, because you can't actually travel diagonally. As of yet, if you really want it, we'll have to add it in an update. In this instance, 47 wouldn't be accessible, but we'll clean it up anyway and revert that. Lastly, we want to move 37 over to 75. So I'm going to copy 37 and I'm going to go ahead and live dangerously and revert it right away. Would be tragic if I somehow lost my copied data, but I could just hit undo until all my 37 data comes back. But it all worked out. I copied onto 75, reverted the square and item ID, and we update the map, and ipso presto, our tour takes us north now. Although we were actually looking north down President Street, even though the button said south. So we actually need to zero out these rotate sky values so we're facing the right direction. Then we go back in the headset and boom, our buttons are actually matching the real directions. And there's my car. Sweet. So we've put together our virtual field trip, and now we want to put it on our students' headsets. First of all, let's go to Edit, Project Settings, and here under the Player section, we're going to update the product name. This will be what shows up inside our app list in the headset, so we'll make it something nice and descriptive like Labaki HQ Tour. And we already tested our build process, so that shouldn't be a problem. Just click File, Build Profiles. I do want to point out this scene list right here. We've been doing everything in the Panomapper scene. That's the default, but if you're making multiple tours, and even when you're making your first tour, your best move is to duplicate that scene and make whatever changes in the new scene so you can always get back to the original. But you want to make sure whatever new scene you built is what's in the list here, because whatever is checked in that checkbox is what's going to get built into the app. We click Build. It's already set to go to our Unity Builds folder, and we name it whatever we want and click Save. Then go get more coffee while the computer cobbles it all together. At this point, we should probably drink some water too. Boom! We've got an APK file for our headset. So we open up SideQuest, make sure it's connected to our headset, and click on the Install APK button up here on the top right, and tell it to install our office tour. So inside of our headset, our apps are going to live in the unknown sources section of our library. And here we are at the top, and we're in. Ignore that little black box there. That's just a message from the headset, but the screen cap doesn't show what it is. Quick test, and we can see everything is working. We've got our quiz popping up and not letting us proceed until we answer. And even the exit button works for real now. And there you go. We built our own custom virtual reality tour app for our headset. So easy, right? Okay, definitely not effortless, but we really are trying to make it as straightforward as we possibly can for you and your students to start creating your own content. And you can always reach out to us at support@labaki.com for some direct assistance or with suggested features. We can always update these projects in the future if we know what specific functions you're looking for or what kind of use cases you might have for these types of experiences that maybe we haven't thought of yet. But that's it for your crash course into building immersive media apps with our Unity template project. Hope this helps get you started.